You are tired. Not the kind of tired that sleep fixes, the other kind. The kind that lives somewhere behind your eyes, somewhere beneath your chest. The kind that has been there so long, you've stopped noticing it. But it's there. And there's something else, a feeling you've never been able to name. Not quite longing, not quite sadness. Something older than both. Like you're waiting for something. Like something is waiting for you. You've tried to explain it, to a friend, to yourself. In the middle of the night when the words almost came, but didn't. Because there are no words for it. Not in the language you were given. People around you seem fine. They make plans. They laugh. They move through their days like the days mean something clear and obvious. Like they belong here. And you watch them. And somewhere deep inside, you feel like you don't. And you wonder, is something wrong with me? I want you to hear this. Not as a comfort, not as a concept. As a truth you have always carried, but never had permission to believe. Nothing is wrong with you. Something is happening to you. Something that has happened to certain people, in every culture, in every century, across every corner of this earth, for thousands of years. And every single time, it was called the same thing. Not a disorder, not a diagnosis, a beginning. And this is how it begins. Let me ask you something. Have you been waking up at strange hours, 3 a.m., 4 a.m., with no reason, but with the undeniable feeling that something is shifting? Have you been seeing the same numbers over and over? Not once, not twice, but constantly. As if the universe is trying to spell something out for you in a language you almost understand. Have you felt the sudden urge to pull away? From noise, from crowds, from people who once felt close, but now feel distant? Not because you stopped caring, but because something in you is outgrowing the space you've been living in. Have you cried without knowing why? Felt joy and grief at the same time, in the same breath? Dreamed of places you've never been, faces you've never seen, but somehow deeply recognized? These are not symptoms of something breaking. These are symptoms of something opening. Modern language has a word for everything that doesn't fit inside a box. It labels, it categorizes, it tries to silence what it cannot understand. But there is a difference, a profound, ancient difference between a mind that is fracturing and a soul that is expanding. One pulls you away from reality. The other pulls you deeper into it, deeper than most people ever dare to go. What you are experiencing is not a crisis. It is a threshold, and you are standing right at the edge of it. What if I told you that what you're experiencing right now has been happening to certain people for thousands of years, and that every culture, every ancient civilization on every continent had a name for it? Not a diagnosis, a calling. From the frozen mountains of Mongolia to the depths of the Amazon rainforest, from the golden temples of Tibet to the wind-swept plains of Kenya. Across thousands of years and thousands of miles, the story is always the same. A person begins to feel different. They hear things others don't hear. They sense things others can't sense. They experience visions, strange dreams, an overwhelming feeling of being pulled towards something invisible. And the community around them, instead of fear, responds with recognition. An elder steps forward, a teacher, a guide, and they say, "We've been waiting for you." These were the shamans, the seers, the healers, the ones who stood between the visible world and the invisible one, translating, bridging, carrying light from one side to the other. And here is what history never tells you about them. They did not begin in power. They began in collapse. In Tibet, there is a tradition of oracles, those who channel wisdom from beyond ordinary consciousness. The ones chosen for this path don't volunteer. They are found, often in the middle of their darkest moment, hearing voices, feeling lost, questioning everything. An older master comes to them, sits with them, and instead of telling them something is wrong, teaches them how to work with what they're experiencing. In Kenya, among the Samburu people, a young girl begins having visions at 12 years old. She feels dizzy. She feels different. She doesn't know what is happening to her. Her grandmother comes, and her grandmother says, "You have a gift. Let me show you how to carry it." That girl grew up to be her community's healer, her seer, her bridge to the unseen. Do you hear what these stories are telling you? The very experience that your world calls a problem, the ancient world called a preparation. The question is not, what is wrong with you? The question is, what are you being prepared for? History tells us about geniuses, but it never tells us about their darkest nights. They say that Tesla would sit alone in his room at midnight, eyes closed, hands trembling, while machines that didn't yet exist ran through his mind in perfect detail. Those around him didn't understand. They called him unstable, obsessive, strange. In Van Gogh's letters, we read of a man who looked at the night sky and felt something move inside him that he had no words for, as if the stars were speaking directly to him, as if the universe was pressing itself against the glass of his perception, trying to get in. And in the story of Rumi, the poet whose words have crossed centuries and still land like a hand on the chest, we find this: his deepest awakening came in his deepest dissolution. In the moment he lost himself completely, he found something that could not be lost. What did these people have in common? They all felt too much. They were all misunderstood. They all passed through a darkness that had no map. And on the other side of that darkness, they created things the world had never seen before. The difference wasn't talent. The difference wasn't luck. The difference was this: they did not let the world convince them that what they were experiencing was wrong. They moved through the storm, and the storm became the source. And you, right now, are in that storm. Not because you are lost, because you are becoming. There is a concept that exists across nearly every ancient tradition on Earth. It doesn't have one name, but it has one meaning. The old self must die for the new self to be born. Not metaphorically, not gently, completely. The shamanic traditions call it the initiatory death. The mystics call it the dark night of the soul. The alchemists called it the dissolution, the moment where everything solid melts, so it can be reformed into something higher. This is not punishment. This is process. Every piece of you that is falling away right now, every belief that no longer fits, every relationship that no longer resonates, every version of yourself that feels too small, is not being lost. It is being released. Because you cannot carry the new frequency in an old container. One of the greatest scientific minds in human history, Albert Einstein, once wrote something that sounds less like physics and more like prophecy. He said, "The human being experiences themselves as something separated from the rest, a kind of optical delusion of consciousness. Our task must be to free ourselves from this prison by widening our circle of compassion, to embrace all living creatures and the whole of nature in its beauty." That's not something a spiritual teacher. This was a physicist. And even he arrived at the same conclusion that every shaman, every mystic, every awakened soul throughout history has arrived at. We are not separate. We never were. And the pain of feeling separate, the longing, the searching, the ache, is not a wound. It is the memory of wholeness, trying to return. breathless. In every great turning point in history, without exception, certain souls appeared. They were not the loudest. They were not the most powerful. They were the most awake. They carried something inside them that could not be taught, only remembered. A sensitivity so deep it became a compass. An awareness so wide it became a map for others still wandering in the dark. You may have spent your whole life feeling like you don't quite belong here. Like you arrived somewhere slightly off, the wrong era, the wrong crowd, the wrong frequency. That feeling is not confusion. That feeling is contrast. You feel the difference between what is and what could be, so deeply, so viscerally, because you carry within you a blueprint of something higher. Not because you are better, because you are here for a reason. The world right now is in the middle of a shift that has no modern precedent. You can feel it in the collective anxiety, in the searching, in the millions of people waking up at 3 a.m., wondering why their old life suddenly feels like a costume they can no longer wear. This is not chaos. This is calibration. And the souls who feel it most deeply, who have always felt it most deeply, are not the victims of this moment. They are its anchors. Your sensitivity is not a burden. It is a function. Your presence, your quiet, steady, awake presence, shifts the energy of every room you enter, every conversation you have, every person you touch. You don't need a stage. You don't need an audience. You only need to be, fully, authentically, unapologetically, what you already are. I'm not going to ask you to do something grand. I'm not going to ask you to change everything overnight. The universe doesn't move through grand gestures. It moves through small, aligned moments of truth. A breath taken consciously, a journal opened in the quiet of the night. A decision made not from fear, not from expectation, but from the deepest part of you that already knows. And the ancient ones knew something we've forgotten, that the most powerful thing a human being can do is simply wake up, not to an alarm, not to a screen, but to themselves, to the truth that has been patiently waiting beneath every layer of doubt, every voice that said you were too much, every moment you made yourself smaller to fit into a world that wasn't built for someone like you. You were not built to fit. You were built to expand. And this moment, right now, in this breath, in this stillness, is not the end of something. It is the beginning of a remembering so deep, so real, so undeniable, that nothing will ever look quite the same again. You didn't find this video. This video found you. And now what happens next is yours.
Hi, my soul family. Happy you're here. Let's start our video.